I'm sitting here at 2 a.m., staring at my phone with 17 missed calls from my sister, and I still can't believe what happened 6 hours ago. My grandmother, she just destroyed our entire family with one sentence. One fucking sentence that she'd been keeping locked away for 23 years. You know that moment when you realize everything you thought you knew about your life was a lie? Yeah, that's where I am right now. Before I dive into this mess, I need to ask you something. If you're listening to this, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below. I'm going to need all the support I can get after tonight, and honestly, sharing these stories helps me process this insanity we call life. Let me paint you a picture of our family. We're your typical Midwestern clan from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Nothing fancy, nothing special. My mom, Sarah, works at the DMV, has for 30 years. My dad, well, that's complicated. He left when I was 12, and for the past 23 years, we've had this narrative about why Mom always told us he was selfish. Couldn't handle responsibility. Found himself a younger woman and just vanished. Classic deadbeat dad story, right? We believed it because why wouldn't we? Mom was heartbroken, working 2 jobs, crying herself to sleep for months. And why grandmother Dorothy? We call her Dot. She was our rock through all of it. Moved in with us after Dad left, helped raise me and my sister Katie. This woman made the best green bean casserole in 3 counties, never missed a school play, and had this way of making everything feel okay even when it wasn't. Dot's house became our Thanksgiving headquarters. Every year, same routine. Katie drives up from Columbus with her husband Mark and their twin boys. I drive over from my apartment downtown. We gather in that same cramped kitchen with the yellow wallpaper that's been there since 1987, and we pretend we're a normal, happy family. This year felt different from the moment I walked in. Dot was twitchy, keep checking the clock, muttering to herself, barely touching her food during prep. At 78, she's still sharp as a tack, so seeing her this scattered put me on edge. "You okay, Grandma?" I asked while helping her mash potatoes. She looked at me with these watery blue eyes, the same eyes I inherited, and said, "Sometimes the weight of secrets gets too heavy, honey." I should have known right then. Should have pushed. But Katie was yelling at the boys to stop fighting, Mark was watching football too loud, and Mom was stress baking her 3rd pie. Normal chaos, you know? I let it slide. Dinner started normally enough. We said grace. Well, said grace while the rest of us mumbled along. The turkey was perfect, the cranberry sauce had just the right amount of orange zest, and for about 30 minutes, we were just a family. Then Mom started talking about work. How this woman came in trying to register a car that her ex-husband had transferred to her name without telling her. Men, Mom said, stabbing her turkey with unnecessary force. They think they can just make decisions and leave us to clean up the mess. Here's where it gets weird. Dot, who normally stays quiet during Mom's divorce rants, suddenly puts down her fork. Just sets it down very deliberately. "Sarah," she said, and her voice had this tone I'd never heard before. Sharp, almost brittle. Maybe we shouldn't talk about men leaving messes at the dinner table. The way she said it, it was like she was trying to stop herself from saying something else. Like those words were a dam holding back a flood. Mom laughed, but it was that nervous laugh people do when they sense danger. "I'm just saying, Mom, some men can't be trusted, and some women can't either." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. Katie stopped mid-chew. Mark actually muted the TV. Even the boys went quiet, and they're 7. They never go quiet. "What's that supposed to mean?" Mom asked. Dot looked around the table, her eyes stopping on each of us like she was memorizing our faces. Then she did something that still gives me chills. She smiled. Not a happy smile. A sad, resigned smile of someone who's about to burn everything down. "It means," she said slowly, "that maybe it's time I told you the truth about why Richard really left. My dad's name." She said my dad's name like it was a live grenade. Mom went white. Actually white. "Mom, don't know, Sarah. I've carried this long enough. You know how sometimes in movies, there's that moment where everything stops? Where the camera zooms in and you can hear everyone's heartbeat. That's what this felt like, except it was real, and there was no director to yell cut. Dot's hands were shaking as she reached for her water glass. Not the normal old person shake. This was different. This was fear. Your father didn't leave because he found someone else, she said, looking directly at my mother. He left because I made him. The words just hung there in the air like smoke. What are you talking about? Mom whispered. Dot took a sip of water, and I swear I could hear everyone breathing. He came to me first. Before he left. He was trying to make your marriage work, Sarah. He was desperate to make it work. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. This wasn't the story we'd been told. This wasn't the story we'd lived with for 23 years. He told me he thought you were having an affair. Mom shot up from her chair so fast it toppled over. That's not sit down, Sarah. The command in Dot's voice was absolute. Mom's Saturday. He had reasons to think it. You were working late, coming home smelling like cologne that wasn't his, taking phone calls in the bathroom. Dot's voice was getting stronger, like finally telling this story was giving her power. He was devastated. This man loved you more than his own life, and he thought he was losing you. But I wasn't, Mom tried to interrupt. I know you weren't. That stopped everything. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause. I knew you weren't having an affair because you told me. You came to me crying, saying you thought Richard was cheating because he'd been distant and cold. Two people, both convinced the other was betraying them, and neither one guilty of anything except bad communication. My chest was getting tight. Where was this going? So, what did you do? Katie asked. Her voice was barely audible. Dot looked at her hands. These hands that had braided my hair, taught me to knead bread, held me when I cried over stupid boys in high school. I told him he was right. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop in the next county. You, what? I managed to croak out. I told your father that yes, Sarah was having an affair. I told him I had proof. I told him. Her voice cracked. I told him the best thing he could do was leave quietly and spare everyone the mess of a public divorce. Mom was making the sound. Not crying. Not screaming. Just this low, keening sound like an animal in pain. Why? Katie whispered. Why would you do that? And here's where my grandmother, this woman I'd worshipped my entire life, looked up at us with tears streaming down her cheeks and said the words that will haunt me forever because I thought Sarah could do better. The confession hit the room like a physical blow. I actually felt dizzy. I thought he wasn't good enough for you, she continued, looking at Mom with desperate eyes. He was a factory worker, Sarah. No college, no ambition beyond his weekend fishing trips. You were so smart, so beautiful. I thought you deserved someone who could give you more. He gave me everything, Mom whispered. I know that now. God help me, I know that now. Mark stood up abruptly. I think maybe the boys and I should sit down, Mom said without looking at him. Her voice was deadly calm. Everyone needs to hear this. She turned to face Dot, and I saw something in my mother's eyes I'd never seen before. Pure, undiluted rage. Tell me exactly what you said to him. Sarah, please tell me. Every word. Dot's hands were shaking so badly now she could barely hold her water glass. I told him you'd been seeing someone from work. That you'd been planning to leave him but were too cowardly to say it. I told him the kind thing would be to just disappear and make it easy for everyone. And he believed you. He trusted me. I was your mother. Why wouldn't he believe me? The irony was sickening. Dad left because he loved Mom too much to put her through what he thought would be a messy divorce. He sacrificed his own happiness, his relationship with his children, because he believed my grandmother's lies. Mom stood up slowly. When she spoke, her voice was so quiet we all had to lean in to hear her. Do you have any idea what you did to me? Sarah, do you have any fucking idea what you did to my children? I'd never heard my mother use that word. Ever. I spent 23 years thinking the man I loved abandoned us. 23 years telling my children their father was a coward who couldn't handle responsibility. 23 years hating myself, wondering what I did wrong, what I could have done differently. She was walking toward Dot now, and I honestly thought she might hit her. And you sat there. For 23 years. You comforted me through every anniversary of him leaving. You helped me raise his children while feeding me lies about why he wasn't there to do it himself. I thought I was protecting you. You were protecting your own prejudice. Mom screamed. You destroyed my marriage because you thought my husband wasn't good enough for your precious daughter. The boys started crying. Mark was trying to comfort them while obviously wanting to run. Katie was just staring like she was seeing a stranger. Where is he now? I asked quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. Dad, where is he now? Is he still alive? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. Dot nodded slowly. Fort Wayne, Indiana. He's married. Has been for about 15 years. Of course he was married. Of course he'd moved on. Why wouldn't he? He thought his first wife was a cheater, and his mother-in-law had essentially told him his children were better off without him. Does he know? Katie asked. Does he know the truth? No. Jesus Christ, Mom. Mom collapsed back into her chair. Jesus fucking Christ. What happened next was chaos. Pure, emotional chaos. Katie started crying, not just tears, but these deep, body-shaking sobs. She'd idolized Dad when we were kids, and his leaving had destroyed her ability to trust men for years. She didn't start dating seriously until she was 28 because she was so convinced they'd all abandon her eventually. Mark was trying to get the boys out of the room, but they were scared and confused and didn't want to leave their mom. The whole scene was like something out of a psychological thriller. Mom just sat there staring like she was trying to memorize her face. Like she was seeing her for the first time. 23 years, she kept repeating. 23 years. I was trying to process everything, but my brain felt like it was short-circuiting. Every memory I had of my childhood was shifting, reshaping itself around this new information. Dad wasn't the villain in our story. He was a victim. I need you to leave, Mom said suddenly. Dot looked up hopefully. Sarah, if we could just know. I need you to leave my house. Now. But it's Thanksgiving, get out. The scream was so loud, so primal, that even I jumped. I'd never seen my mother like this. Never seen her lose control so completely. Sarah, please, I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 23 years. Sorry doesn't give my children back their father. Sorry doesn't undo the damage you did to all of us because of your fucking snobbery. Stood up slowly, looking every one of her 78 years. I was trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. The old woman gathered her purse with shaking hands. She looked at me and Katie like she wanted to say something, but what was left to say? What words could possibly fix this? At the door, she turned back one more time. I love you. All of you. Everything I did out of love. Mom's response was quiet but final. That's the worst part. You actually believe that. After it left, we all just sat there in the wreckage of our Thanksgiving dinner. The turkey was getting cold, the cranberry sauce was congealing, and none of us had any appetite left. Katie was the first to speak. We have to find him. Katie, Mom started. No, Mom. We have to find him. He deserves to know the truth. And then what? He's got a whole other life now. A wife who probably doesn't even know we exist. What if he doesn't want to see us? The possibility hung there like a sword over our heads. What if Dad was happy? What if learning the truth just brought him pain? What if he genuinely moved on and wanted nothing to do with his first family? But I knew Katie was right. He deserves to know, I said. Even if he doesn't want a relationship with us, he deserves to know he wasn't the villain Grandma made him out to be. Mom looked at both of us, her children, and I saw the exact moment she made her decision. It was like watching someone choose to jump off a cliff, terrifying and brave at the same time. Okay, she whispered. We'll find him. Mark, who'd been quiet through most of this, finally spoke up. I can help. I've got connections from work, people who can track down contact information. What do we tell him? I asked. How do you even start that conversation? Katie wiped her eyes. The truth. We tell him the truth. We spent the next 2 hours talking through scenarios, trying to figure out how to approach a man we hadn't seen in over 2 decades. How do you apologize for something that wasn't your fault? How do you explain that your entire family was built on a lie? By the time Mark and Katie left with the boys, we had a plan. Sort of. Mark would track down Dad's contact information. Mom would write a letter. Not an email, not a text, but an actual letter. Something he could hold, something real. We'd send it and then we'd wait. That was 6 hours ago. I'm home now, sitting in my apartment that suddenly feels too quiet, too empty. I keep thinking about Dad. Does he ever think about us? Does he wonder what we're doing, how we turned out? Or has he pushed us so far into his past that we're just ghosts now? I'm angry. God, I'm so angry. At, obviously, but also at the universe for letting this happen. For letting all of us suffer for more than 2 decades because one woman thought she knew better than everyone else about what love should look like. But underneath the anger, there's something else. Hope, maybe? The possibility that we might get our father back. That we might finally understand why we always felt like something was missing from our family. Mom called me an hour ago. She was crying, but they were different tears. Not the bitter tears of betrayal, but something cleaner. Grief, maybe, for all the lost time, but also relief. Relief that she wasn't the wife who drove her husband away. Relief that her marriage was real, even if it was destroyed by lies. I loved him so much, she told me. I never stopped loving him. I know, Mom. He loved you too. That's why he left, because he loved you too much to put you through what he thought would be a nightmare. We cried together over the phone, and for the first time in 23 years, we weren't crying about the man who abandoned us. We were crying about the man who was taken from us. Tomorrow, we start trying to put our family back together. Maybe it won't work. Maybe too much time has passed. Too much damage has been done. But maybe it's not too late for second chances. I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever discovered that your entire understanding of a family situation was wrong? How do you rebuild trust after betrayal like this? And hit that subscribe button. I have a feeling this story is just getting started. 23 years of lies ended with one Thanksgiving confession. Now we get to find out if 23 years of separation can end with one letter. I'll keep you posted on what happens next. Right now, I'm going to try to get some sleep, though I doubt I'll be able to close my eyes without seeing the look on Dad's face the day he left. The look I always thought was guilt, but now realize was heartbreak. Everything I thought I knew about my family was wrong. Tomorrow, we start learning who we really are.